Venado Caves Incident. On December 9, 2024, 12 American tourists gathered near La Fortuna, Costa Rica, preparing to enter the Venado Caves. Their guide, Robert Chambers, had led several local tours before, but never with such a large group. Among them were Anna Wells, her fiancé, Michael Torres, an amateur photographer eager to capture photos of bats. Others included college friends, backpackers, and one couple traveling through Central America. They wore helmets, boots, and waterproof lights, but none carried respiratory masks. The air near the entrance was damp and heavy, rising from the limestone gap like slow breath. "Watch your step," Chambers called as they ducked into the first chamber. The beam from his headlamp cut through mist. It's slippery slow, steady. Inside, the temperature dropped sharply. Water dripped in steady rhythm from above, echoing through long tunnels. The smell thickened earth, ammonia, something faintly sour. Narrow passages opened into small chambers where bats stirred overhead like shifting shadows. "This place feels alive," Torres whispered, his voice swallowed by the dark. By the third chamber, dust began clinging to their clothes. Chambers pointed to guano layers on the floor. "Stay light on your feet, don't kick it up." But excitement took over, and one tourist crouched to film the bat clusters above. The camera light startled the colony, and a sudden wave of wings filled the air. Droppings scattered. Beneath their feet, a fine gray powder rose in clouds, catching every beam of light. Several people coughed. "Let's move back," Chambers shouted, waving them toward the junction. The air turned thick, particles hung suspended, almost glittering. Someone sneezed, another gagged. No one realized the spores they inhaled were alive, microscopic, waiting for lungs to settle in. The tour ended quietly, but 3 days later, Wells struggled to breathe. Others from the group began texting similar symptoms. 6 ended up hospitalized in San Jose. Doctors traced the cause: fungal spores released when bat guano was disturbed. Treatment began immediately with antifungal medication, slow recovery stretching over weeks. Paraná Cave Incident. In March 2023, a small group of biology students from Curitiba University entered a cave system in southern Brazil. Among them was Gabriela Mendes and her close friend Lucas Pereira. Both had some field experience, but were far from professional cavers. Their plan was to study arachnid and insect habitats, collecting data for a semester project. The cave mouth was slick from the previous night's rain, framed by vines that dripped water like beads. Mendes near the entrance, checking her flashlight. Batteries full. "Let's keep tight spacing," she said, adjusting her gloves. The passage was narrow, forcing them to crawl on wet stone. Cold air filled their lungs, smelling of soil and roots. Their voices echoed back as faint whispers. "It's quieter than I expected," Pereira murmured, snapping a photo of glistening rock. After 15 minutes, the tunnel opened into a chamber with low stalactites. Mendes spotted a thin web glinting in their light. "Here's one nest," she said, gently brushing near it. A rustle followed, faint but sharp. Then, pain intense, burning stabbed her wrist. "Ow!" "Something bit me," she gasped, stepping back. She'd already seeing the 2 small punctures. The spider vanished into shadow. "Pereira, we should get you out." "I'm fine," she insisted at first, but within minutes her hand swelled. The cave air grew colder, on sweat gleaming across her forehead. They began the retreat, each step longer than the last. By the time they reached daylight, Mendes could barely move her fingers. "Just a bite," she murmured weakly. But 2 days later, she was in the hospital. Doctors identified a brown recluse bite. The tissue around the wound began dying, turning black and hard. The infection spread fast, eating into muscle. Hours blurred into surgeries and IV drips. Necrotizing fasciitis had set in. Mendes survived. Her wrist bore a crescent scar, skin tight and pale. Bear Creek Cave Incident, early April 2023, Payson, Arizona. Stephen Jackson, a seasoned hiker and geology enthusiast, planned a short spring exploration of Bear Creek Cave with friends Jason Miller and Emily Parks. Jackson had mapped small caves in the Mogollon Rim before and carried climbing ropes, lanterns, and a handheld gas meter to detect low oxygen pockets. They left their truck before sunrise. Morning air smelled of pine and thawed earth. The cave was small, carved into red sandstone. They expected mineral deposits, nothing more. "Let's be in and out before lunch," Jackson said. Miller adjusted his headlamp. "Copy that. Just a quick survey." Inside, the passage narrowed and then opened into a low chamber. The air was warmer here, almost thick. Miller paused. "Smells like something's been living here," he said, wrinkling his nose. Jackson aimed his light at the dirt floor. Could be raccoon droppings. "Let's check the next chamber." The second chamber went silent. A heavy exhale broke it deep. Guttural. Parks froze. "Steve, did you hear that?" Then a growl. A massive black bear emerged from the shadows, shaking dirt from its fur. The team froze. "Back out slowly," Jackson ordered, holding his hands up. But in the confined tunnel, there was nowhere to retreat quickly. The bear lunged. Jackson shoved Miller aside. The impact echoed like thunder. "Steve!" Miller shouted, scrambling toward the exit. The bear struck again, its weight filling the entire space. Parks clawed her way outside, screaming for help. By the time wildlife officers arrived, 30 minutes had passed. Jackson lay near the entry, barely visible beneath blood-stained rock. The bear had retreated into the forest, leaving deep claw marks along the cave wall. Rescuers confirmed the bear had been denning a resting female startled from hibernation. Miller later gave a quiet statement. "He pushed me out of the way." He didn't hesitate. Jackson's death prompted new state advisories warning hikers about cave dens during spring thaw.